I welcome you to the Semaj MindSpa, where mind, spirit, and science meets. And thank you to our founding sponsor, Jamaica National Group, JN, will help you find the way. And also, Above or Beyond Consultants, taking you above where you presently are or beyond your wildest imagination. As usual, we greet our immediate Trelawney family. And then we move along the North Coast, from St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James, all the way around to Western Jamaica, who can hear us on Fit FM, 96.7 FM. But we also greet the larger audience now, those on the World Wide Web, www.fitfmja.com. The Wayne Hall Network in Atlanta and the Caribbean Vibes Radio Network out of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And all the other folks who are tuning in. It's amazing how the growth, what is happening. We have an average over a 28-day period, over 800,000 people log into the Semaj MindSpa. So we welcome you all and we're grateful, and lots of exciting things ahead. Today's show, the 10 rules of re-engagement. Re-engagement. Subtitle, Love and Intimacy After 60. Alive and well, not dead. The 10 rules of re-engagement. We said re because, look, many people who were happening before, but a lot of people, after a certain time and space and circumstances, things happen, and they lose the touch and the ability. So we here at the MindSpa, we want to rekindle that process. There's a quote from David Viscott that says, "To love and be loved is to feel the sun from both sides." Love and be loved. Now, the age of autonomy and new intimacy, that's where we are now. There was a time when reaching 60 meant drawing curtains on everything, your ambition, your adventures, and certainly on love. A lot of people didn't figure that, look, 60 is past grave. Not anymore, folks. Not anymore. That time is over. We're living through a quiet revolution in how the second half of life unfolds. I call this the anchor leg. Life expectancy, upper 70s and 80s for women. So that you're at 60, you're talking about 20 good years ahead of you. That's a lot of time to work with. We know of people who are divorced, widowed, changing relationship structure, means that more men and women than ever before are entering their 60s and 70s and are single. Many for the first time in decades. I heard a woman on a post recently pointing out that from she was 15, she was always in a relationship, whether as a girlfriend, or a sweetheart, or a wife, or what. And now it was the first time in her life she's single. Now, some arrive here by grief. Somebody passed. Some by choice. Some simply by the slow drift of lives that grew apart. Look, there are some people, it was good for you at one point, but then you grew apart. But here they stand at the threshold of what I call the anchor leg, the final defining stretch of life. Fully lived. What if that threshold is not an ending, but an opening, a new beginning, with life expectancy stretching well into the 80s and beyond? Many of us will live another 25, 30 years after 60. No, that's not the end, folks. That's an entire second movement. It was never meant to be played in silence. This is not a conversation about desperation, not at all. It's a conversation about liberation, freedom, freeing your spirits to soar into the second half of life. It's about recognizing that the hunger for genuine connection, for warmth, for intimacy, for that peculiar joy of being truly known by another person does not age out. It simply deepens. To love and be loved in return, greatest gift. So, why are so many people single after 60? Now, there's a significant rise in this thing called gray divorce. Gray divorce, people who you'd never think. People in their 60s and 70s are filing for divorce. Spouse pass. Long partnership quietly losing their vitality and reaching their natural end. Remember it says, and it came to pass. In other words, it came to stay. Among women especially, widowhood and divorce leave many navigating solo living for the first time since they were in their 20s. Building new budgets, new routines, new identities. Among men, the landscape is different, but no less disorienting. Decades of emotional reticence, measuring worth by provision rather than presence. That can leave a man genuinely unsure of how to begin again. But here is what the statistics do not always capture. This season of singlehood, however, is arrived. It also carries something remarkable. You are no longer beholden to anyone's expectation. It's a whole nother category. You are not managing young children. You're not climbing a career ladder or performing a version of yourself that was built for someone else's comfort. At 60 and over, love, if you choose to seek it, can finally be entirely on your term. How do you want it to be? Now, what does the landscape look like for men and women? The terrain is not the same for both sexes, and pretending otherwise will help no one. So let's look at it now carefully. Men, the numbers are in your favor, all right? Why do we say that? There are significantly fewer single men over 60 than women. A genuine, emotionally available man is not a commodity. He is rare, and that rarity matters. Gentlemen, your greatest asset is no longer what it used to be. Emotional maturity, steadiness, and hard-won self-knowledge are now far more attractive than your status or your physical prowess. Lead with those. Women are not looking for perfection. They're looking for presence. And that word, we're going to keep coming back with that word. Presence. Not presence. Presence. For someone who shows up, someone who listens, someone who can hold space for the other person's life. That is now entirely within your reach. For women, you have to choose with intention. What do we know about you? Statistically, you're likely to outlive your male partner. So the numbers say, no, we're not being morbid. It's a reason to choose slowly, wisely, and from a position of genuine discernment. It's not about loneliness. Your emotional clarity is your superpower. Women over 60 routinely report a profound freedom, released from the obligations to manage everybody's feelings, to choose connections based on authentic alignment rather than social expectation. Confidence is not arrogance, it is earned. You are now free to be who you really are. Express yourself, what you really want. The life you have built, the storms you have survived, the self you have assembled, all of that is genuinely attractive. Own it. So, it is clear that 60 is not a closing chapter. It is a threshold. And for many of us, it's the first time in your life that you arrive at love without a desperate urgency you had at youth, without the performance anxiety of the middle years, without the need to prove anything to anyone. It is your time, your season. What is powerful now? What is possible? If we approach it with wisdom and courage and a clear-eyed honesty about ourselves, this connection of depth and a quality that younger version of us could barely have conceived. What I want to take you through now is 10 principles. We offer them not as prescription, but as invitations, a framework for re-engaging with love, intimacy, connection in the anchor leg of life, thoughtfully, fully, and without any apology. All right, so we're offering some guidelines now. 10 principles. Let's start with number 1. Begin with the person in the mirror. Start with you. Before you reach towards anyone else, look inwards. The unfinished emotional business of life, any grief that was never fully grieved, resentment quietly calcified. These happen over decades. Patterns of relating that have outlived their usefulness. These will accompany you into any new connection unless you confront them with honesty. What are the parts of yourself that need healing, that need changing, that need cleaning? Be honest. This is not optional housekeeping. This is foundational. Therapy, journaling, long walks with your most trusted self and your truthful self, whatever the method, make your peace with the past before you extend an invitation to someone new. So whatever the burdens, whatever the baggages, whatever the things you had carried with you for years, for decades, guess what? You can't offer genuine presence, that word again, while dragging unexamined history through the door. Come to grips with all those things in the past, things that you have outlived, things that are no longer useful. By now you know what works and what doesn't work. Clean house. And we're talking about your mental house, your psychic house, your psychological house, so you can go forward. Reasonable? Number 2, connection is not a curriculum vitae or a resume. It's not about that. Your credentials are impressive. Your career has been meaningful. Your children have done well. But guess what? None of that, not a single line of it, builds intimacy. Not a job you're applying for. There's a difference between work and walk. Real connections happens in the space between the resume, in the quality of your listening, in the willingness to be curious about another person's inner world, rather than narrating your own achievements. Put down the highlight reels. Put them aside. Ask questions about the other person. Be present to the answers. It's not about trotting out your resume. You're not looking for a work. Ask questions. Let the conversation go somewhere neither of you planned. And it's incredible how the pieces unfold. Number 6. Well, let's start with number 3 first. Number 3. Anxious to get to 6, but let's number 3. Release the fantasy and embrace the reality. Guess what? There is no perfect partner waiting to complete you. I repeat, there is no perfect partner waiting to complete you. Guess what? There never was. You, in your own imperfection, there is somebody equivalently with their imperfection. But between, there is a compatibility. At the stage of life, presence again matters immeasurable more than perfection. The invitation now is not to find someone who satisfies a checklist. Remember those checklists you had when you were younger? No. But to discover someone whose spirit speaks to yours across a table. On an unremarkable Tuesday evening. Someone whom the ordinary becomes quite unexpectedly extraordinary. Release the ideal. Make room for the real. One of the problems that we've had over the years, in my own life as a psychologist, and when we were involved in helping people to find soul mates and partners and so on, people would have these unrealistic lists. Well, is she a 9? Is she a 10? Is she at least a 7? What's it about? And then the women, well, how tall is he? Is he 6'2"? Is he 187 pounds? Is he? These are the kind of things that probably kept you where you were. Put all those things aside. There's somebody you want to meet. There's somebody you see. You know this thing? Spirit tech. That is a real thing. That is something that we have to deal with. Because if that is there, it works. If it is not there, nothing happens. Forget about the checklist. Number 4. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is not weakness. What is it? It is mastery. Emotional availability is among the most sophisticated thing a human being can practice. Are you available emotionally? Can you connect with someone else? It requires courage of the kind that no credentials can confer. No career can manufacture. Say what you need. Speak what you feel. Be authentic. Allow yourself to be seen imperfectly, honestly, wholly. That's where real intimacy begins. It is not in this idealized state that people tend to carry around with themselves. That's not where it is at all. It's real. It's real. The men and women who have mastered this understanding, something the rest of us are still learning, that openness is not exposure. It is depth. That's where you can share yourself. The vulnerability, the imperfections, the things that at one point you are almost embarrassed, but it is where you discover who you really are. Be willing, be able, be comfortable. Absolutely necessary. Number 5. It is where you now step up and you rediscover your sensuality. What are you really about? What touches you? What moves you? Let us be direct. Sex after 60 can be rich, nuanced, and profoundly satisfying, often in ways that younger versions of yourself could not have even imagined. Because we had this notion it's all about the young people. And you see all the various music videos. Don't get caught up in that. That was then, that is them. Rediscover your sensuality. You're not trying to be nobody else's, but yourself. The shift that occurs with age is not a diminishment. It's not less than. It's a refinement. By now, you know what works for you. You know what your needs are. However subtle, however different, it's uniquely you. Be willing to embrace it and be willing to talk about it. Be willing to share. It is no longer about performance or conquest or the anxious currency of youth. It's about connection. And there we word again, presence. When you're in the presence of that person, what do you feel? You feel areas of your body tingle that you thought never existed anymore. The particular pleasure of being genuinely comfortable in your own skin. By now, you know what works for you. At the same time, by now, you know what are things that are known. That's a non-starter. We won't even go there. Medical realities can be navigated. So you know whatever inadequacies, whatever issues that you've had to contend with, we know. There are workarounds. Bodies adapt, and so do partnerships. So you deal with what is, not what you wish it was or wish it could be. Communication is everything. What changes is that you finally have the wisdom to know this. That, I want to just enter something else in the mix here. We've talked about this thing called love. And one of the most common element and definition of love is, for many people, it's been a blank check, where one person offers the other person a blank check. And then now that person fills in their wants, their wishes, their aspirations, you name it. No problem. They feel good. But guess what? Problem occurs when they attempt to cash the check, only to find out that the things that they put on and fill it, they were not in your account. It was all in their imagination that those things were put. So it's at this stage of life where we avoid that completely. No blank checks. You deal the cards face up. You say what you require, what you wish, what you desire, what works for you. No fantasy. And again, as we put the vulnerability, the availability, state what you want. State what works. By now you know. So there's no pretense. You don't have to ignore something and say, well, look, you'll get around it, you'll get over it. No, we're now in the ankle leg. What you're doing, it must work straight up. So no time for that. So we need honest communication. And I always believe in the notion of dealing the cards face up. Because when you deal the cards face up, each person will see the hand that they have, exactly what they're getting, and look. If it's not going to work, you don't waste your time. You respectfully say, listen, no, that is not going to work for me. Look, you start talking to the person, you start having conversations, and you see some little things that are questionable for you. You see issues of possessiveness. You see issues of just jealousy, irrational jealousy. You see issues of control. Want to give an account for your time every step of your waking hours, and you point it out, but it persists. No, that's not a battle that you're going to win. So you respectfully draw the plug early and out. How does that sound? Communication. Don't pretend. I say communication. I remember a classic Alfred Hitchcock movie where this woman, she was into all kind of gourmet cooking, but her husband hated it. He wanted a simple life, a simple life. You would see him struggling through the various meals. And the ultimate, she got a beautiful leg of lamb. And she was telling him the way she's going to have it prepared and what she's going to do with it and so on and things. And we're not encouraging this now or excusing this. What happened was that the man killed the wife using the leg of lamb and literally beat her to death with it. This is a classic Alfred Hitchcock type thing. And then he cooked the leg of lamb the way he wanted it cooked. Now, when the police were there, they came over to do their investigation and so on. He offered them some of his lamb stew. And in their conversation, he said, they say sometimes the evidence is right under your nose. So we're saying that this has always been a part of my reality, that scene from that movie. And I tell, when, especially men, you're offered something and you pretend like you like it, you're going to get it offered again and again and again. No. At this stage, in the ankle leg, once there's something, no, I don't eat that. No, I don't like, no. But you don't even want to try it? No, I've tried and I know, huh? So you deal with what you have to deal with. Number 6, date with dignity and discernment. You have earned the right to your standards. Not the rigid, impossible standards of fantasy, but the grounded, life-tested standards of someone who knows what they want, knows what matters and what does not. If something feels persistently wrong, trust that intelligence. You know what you don't want. You know what doesn't work for you. Desperation is the enemy of good judgment. And you're not desperate. You are selective, which is an entirely different thing and an immeasurably better one. Clarity about what you want and what you will not accept is not arrogance, it's self-respect. So this will set the patterns now in terms of the context in which you're going to find that partner, that connection. Now, for example, it's a common thing. Lots of men know that you can find lots of women in the church. No, you go to church strictly for that purpose, for that reason. But then once the relationship starts to build, then you stop going to church. No, that's not going to work. Because it was almost as if it was a deception to begin with. The other side of it, women know that one of the places that men hang out, Cayman Park or some equivalent, and she goes there with no interest in that activity, but with the understanding that you're going to find men there. And then once the relationship gets started, she gets very upset every Saturday, every race day that you had. You see the problems on both sides? So be very careful how you date, the kind of options that you act on, because they could come back to haunt you. And not at this stage of your life. Huh? Absolutely not. You don't want to do that now. Okay? Number 7, make your peace with rejection. Rejection is not a verdict on your worth. It is simply a mismatch. Two people whose rhythms do not align, whose visions for their remaining years point in different directions. Now, There's some people who are afraid to attempt any new relationship or even to meet somebody. What if the person don't like it? What if it don't work out? So what? If it doesn't work out, next. Just tell yourself that's that person's loss. And don't force yourself to tolerate, put up with, continue something long past. It is clear to you that the level of incompatibility is there, visible, seen. Make peace with it. So that if you are the one rejected, accept, move on. Understanding, that's part of life. If you see that this is not going to work, be as decent and as gentle as possible and just state, listen, I don't think this is going to work, and I think it is, we should probably. It stings, yes. Allow it to sting, because especially if you had a higher evaluation of the person and the potential of the relationship than the other person did. That's life. Allow it to sting, dust yourself off, reset, and continue. That's life. The right connection does not require you to contort yourself out of recognition in order to achieve it. It does not ask you to be smaller or quieter or more accommodating than your nature allows. All of those are signs that this one is not going to work. So the sooner you figure that out, the better for all parties, and you move on. What fits, fits. What does not, does not. The distinction is neither personal nor permanent. But that's part of the reality. When you attempt new things, there's going to be some failures. But that doesn't mean you give up. You go all the way back. Children are just wonderful examples. The natural state of a child is to learn new things. The child tried walking. The first couple of times, the child fell. Does that mean the child just stayed on the ground? No. Tried again and maybe fell. Eventually, they mastered it. So remember that this is a new era for you, because for many people, it's been decades, decades since they have had to build a new relationship. So there will be some missteps. There will be some emotions that you had long since buried, that it's time for you to learn brand new things. Step 8, use technology thoughtfully. Now, what we're talking about now, there's been a lot of development. A lot of dating platforms now exist. Now, when you were in your initial dating period, no such things existed. Many of them work. Many of them have a variety of possibilities. I have met people who literally have met people online, and with the necessary due diligence, ultimately, they were able to build a relationship, because the world is a smaller place now. Historically, traditionally, where we met people who lived in the same village as you, the same community as you, worked the same place as you, went to the same church as you. Now, the world is much bigger than that now. You can be communicating with somebody, let's say, on social media. I have associates on social media. I have no idea where they are. None whatsoever. But what's the common element? We share certain interests and certain concerns and certain issues. When I look at, let's take for example now, the Semaj MindSpa network. On any given day, we're talking about persons from up to 70 different countries are tapping into the ideas and then conversations develop between people. So that's the kind of world we are now. It is quite possible you could have persons that you are interacting with on social media that you have more things in common with them than persons in your community. That's a new world. So the platforms that exist, if you choose to use them, choose platforms designed with your age group in mind. Do the research. You can easily use an AI to give you an analysis of the different ones, indicate your age, your interests, and ask for a recommendation which of the platforms would cater best to someone like you. If there are any friends of yours who have used, find out what their concerns were, what worked and what didn't work. Craft a profile that reflects your actual life, not the person you were at 40, not some airbrush fantasy, but the full, interested, textured human being you are now, right now, with your real interests and your honest intention. Now, oftentimes, it's been said that when people meet online, there are at least 4 people in that conversation. The 2 individuals, and then the 2 individuals that they're both pretending to be. No, that's deception. We can't afford that. You can't afford that. So at least you want to make sure that you are presenting your authentic self, your real self. And again, use the time. There are people who try to short circuit the process. Take your time. Take your time and get to know the person online in that safe space before anything else is attempted. To meet face to face in a safe space. If there's any way there's any common associate or friend that can be brought into the mix, that certainly helps. Authenticity attracts authenticity. And if the digital world feels foreign to you, you ask someone you trust to help you navigate it. There's no shame in learning the landscape, because it's a whole nother language, a whole nother way of doing things. And it could open you up to some possibilities that you were never aware that those were available to you. Huh? What do you think? Step 9, root yourself in wholeness, not need. Wholeness. You are a whole person reaching out to interact with another whole person. There's an enormous difference between seeking genuine compassion and seeking validation. Big difference. Between reaching towards someone from a place of wholeness and reaching from a place of emptiness. One is giving, the other is grasping. Big difference. That's why we talked up front. We said, do your housekeeping in terms of your own baggage that you could be walking with. Get rid of them. Do the interior work to feel complete within yourself. Be comfortable with yourself first before you try to share yourself with somebody else. Not because you must be self-sufficient and emotionally sealed, but because the love you offer from that grounded place is incomparably more sustainable, more generous, more patient, more free. You are not looking to be rescued. If you are presenting yourself as a basket case, as somebody, who would make a nice project, or if you're looking for projects, people that you can save and you can make something of them, no, I don't encourage that. That's not encouraged at all. You are looking to share who you are. That's a very different journey and a far more rewarding one than looking for projects. You want somebody who is equivalent in as many ways as possible so that you are now able to, this whole notion. I like to remind people that now we know many times people in Jamaica have a problem with math. When I say, half times half, and usually the first thing you hear, half times half is one. No, folks, half times half is quarter. So when the notion of a half a man times a half a woman, you're worse off than you were before. What you need is 1 plus 1 to get 2. One whole person is not a whole person together. They make 2 whole people. So be very careful that some people historically are they're attracted to projects. Somebody that they can bring out the best out of them. No, no, no. I'm not encouraging that. Not at all. Number 10, celebrate the audacity of being gloriously unfinished. Remember, I say we're not looking for perfection. A slow dance in your kitchen on no particular occasion. A weekend trip somewhere neither of you has ever been. That's what we're talking about. To become another step somewhere else, that a conversation at 2 a.m. that wanders in the territory you did not expect and leave you both quietly changed. That's what we're talking about. You start exploring. And when you start having these conversations, I think the first phase of any such relationship, and probably the longest phase, should be those conversations that you have on, let's say, WhatsApp. Why I say WhatsApp? Because look, WhatsApp is free. And I find that the whole notion of being able to talk, being able to share ideas, you may choose, first of all, you because of the context, you're right. And that it's important, that you spend some time just writing notes to each other. And the nice thing when you can leave a note, you can leave a text message, and the person reads it later on. But then you have the record there to go back over it again and clarify. But then you feel like sharing an idea, use a voice note. And the person maybe is busy or doing other things, and then they come back on at some point, and I recommend that you want to make that the longest part of the relationship. Sharing your thoughts, sharing your ideas. In writing, because I think writing clarifies in a way that speaking doesn't, but also voice notes, where persons can hear the emotions and you can do the same. And likewise, get to know the person. Take your time. Take your time. Because look, you said that first phase only happens once. So the more you can stretch it out and you can make it interesting and lasting, and the nuances about it, it is necessary, it is useful. Now, these are not small things. These are the whole point of sharing, and that you are alive, because those ideas, that conversations that you have with this individual, you realize what happens now when you start telling stories about, especially when the person asks. Remember, we talked up front, it's not about your resume. And the most important thing is to ask questions. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. When you start sharing facts of your life, areas, it's incredible. You find out some areas of yourself that you did not know were so important. You are alive. You are available. You carry within you the full weight and the full richness of a life that has been genuinely lived. And you are not done yet. Because it is out of this now you're seeing areas, as you hear something about the other individual, as to what are the possibilities. You may see some things, but I haven't thought of that. I haven't thought of that. So these are the steps, folks. And as I said to you before, many people, because of the circumstances by which you are now single, it could be by death of a spouse, it could be by divorce, it could be by relationships that just went out of their natural course and ended. But a lot of people now, very few people, not just few, most people are not prepared for this stage. Most people are not prepared because what did you expect? The normal expectations is that you would have met somebody in your 20s and 30s, build a relationship, then it would now be mature, and the whole idea of growing old together. But reality intervened. So you have to learn from scratch. You have to learn in an era that you really have no previous experience. So by us sharing this, we can help you to navigate these areas. So let's walk through the areas again. 10 steps. When we're talking about what do you do? What do you do in this context? The theme is the 10 steps for re-engagement, because you did it before, long time, huh? The 10 steps for re-engagement: love, intimacy, and connections after 60. It is indeed possible, but it has to be done deliberately and carefully and step by step. So you don't have to make it a guess thing. Use this as your guideline. Step 1, begin with the person in the mirror. Start with yourself. Before you reach towards anyone else, reach inward. What is the unfinished business of your life? Everyone has a basket. Everyone has a baggage. You start to unpack your baggage. If you can't unpack your baggage, then clearly it's almost impossible to go forward. Begin with yourself. You could actually even look back, at what worked in the past, what did not work, what aspect of yourself. Some people literally just look, maybe I need to spend some time with a counselor, with a therapist to help me to unlock this. Maybe I need to do some journaling, just document my ideas. Maybe I need to talk with a close friend to help me understand why is it that, say you find a common element of the kind of person that you have been historically attracted to, and it always turned out bad. Huh? There's something to learn from that. What is it that attracts you to a kind of person that turns out? So do the internal work first. Step 2, we said, your connection is not about your resume. It's not about trotting out what you used to do when you were this and when you were position. No. If the person asks and is genuinely interested in that element of your life, be willing to share, but you don't lead with that. It's not about your credentials. You ask the person about their life. Ask the person about their interests. Listen. Be curious about, especially experiences that they have had, places that they have lived, things that they have done that is very different from yourself. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. And that's going to be a hard thing for some people because you're so used to be just telling people the highlights of your life and what your children did. And so, no. Listen. Step 3, release the fantasy, embrace the reality. There's no perfect partner waiting to complete you. There never was. So that, no, it's perfect. the 10 list that you have, the most, I believe the only list that you really need, if you examine yourself, certain things that are total deal breaker, non-starter. At least not even to start along that route. Yeah? Some things that, take for example, your religious practice and tradition and so on is central to your being. It's not possible for you to even entertain outside of that. So that to you, that it's a deal breaker. And one of the things that I am very careful about, I know, for example, that I like freedom to travel because I define myself as a digital nomad. A digital nomad. I'm a knowledge worker who can work anywhere from anywhere. All I need is internet, broadband, and that I don't feel trapped in a building, in an office. I like to be able to move from place to place. But if you have a party who literally, that is not them, they're not leaving where they are at all. So for some things that are deal breakers. You know that. You know things about yourself that you are not going to give up. So I say release the fantasy and embrace the reality. 4, vulnerability is not weakness. Emotional availability. Be willing to share who you are. Say what you need. Speak what you feel. Allow yourself to be seen imperfectly. That's where the intimacy begins. Number 5, rediscover your sensuality. Oftentimes people, you could have been repressed. Let's say you were in a relationship where really, based on that partner, you were really restricted in terms of the options, the fantasies. That you had those fantasies, there were issues that you wanted to explore. Now is a chance to let this be part of that initial conversation to see if that individual, if that compatibility exists. Date with dignity and discernment. You're not trying to lower your standards. You're not trying to go anywhere out of desperation. If certain issues are being suggested, then you know that no, that is out. No, I'm not doing that. That is not. Take it very as an early sign that this is not going to work. Make peace with rejection. Every stop could not necessarily be a step. Every step doesn't mean it has to be a stop. So something was just meant to be a step and then step back or move on. It's part of the game. It's part of the reality. Use the technology thoughtfully. Yes, when you were initially dating, we had no such thing as dating platforms and where people could meet on social media and so on. Explore the possibilities and learn how to navigate these spaces. 9, root yourself in wholeness, not need. It's about giving, not grasping. You're not looking for a savior, nor are you looking to save anybody. You want 2 whole people. And 10, celebrate the audacity of being gloriously unfinished. Be willing to listen and learn about these new elements. My goodness, I never even thought of that. We're talking about a whole new area, a whole new set of possibilities, because indeed, as I say, the best is yet to come. And it takes time, it takes patience, but even in the exploration, there's so much to learn, so much possibilities that as a result of it, you learn so much about yourself. You may even discover some other dimensions that you never thought of that before. it's all indeed possible. So, what not dead, no call it duppy. No dash it with. And indeed, it is quite possible to build love and connection and life after 60 in the anchor leg of life. So I do believe you should explore this. It's possible. So till we meet again, walk good. Walk good. And may goodness follow you.